What's up guys, I got the pencil here and we have a bout of combat to discuss. This is a battle between two princes of a species that is oppressed, a pair of warriors considered the second fiddle to their primary connections. We must discuss the battle between the prince of the long dead Saiyan race, Vegeta, versus the prince of darkness, Zeldris. Now, before we hop into this battle of two great warriors, let me ask you to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let's move on. Now, if I'm being honest, I really like this battle in concept. Two warriors from their respective worlds that have committed horrible acts in the name of a higher power and that have learned from the errors of their ways and grown from it. They're both great characters with perfect mirror narratives. However, we run into the problem that we had with the first fiddles of their respective series with the second fiddles. Vegeta drastically outpowers, outspeeds, out everything Zeldris. He pulls with the one Escanor to the ominous Nebula except to an insanely higher degree. A multiversal, inaccessible character like Vegeta sneezes in Zeldris' general direction and bam, Zeldris is dead. Seriously, I have no arguments for Zeldris even scuffing Vegeta's boots. He's a massively fast and light character, but Vegeta is literally an entire speed tier above that. And while he can reach star level with some upscaling, Vegeta is thousands, if not millions, if not billions times beyond that, depending on how one wants to interpret the transformations like Super Saiyan Blue, and how much certain Zenkais in training sessions did for the Saiyan. I can't argue that, at all. However, like before, we can have fun discussing what would happen if they were both put on a level playing field. Also, energies equalized. All energies, meaning God Ki, regular Ki, normal magic, demonic magic, all of it is equalized. So act as if it is one uniform power system. Sorry for not being clear with it last time, didn't mean to cause any confusion. Now, let's discuss their respective abilities. In the same case with Goku, due to the lack of need for power differences and to make the battle more interesting, I shall be using Manga Vegeta for his extra notable ability. He will be in peak form, as transformations will be useless in a neutral scenario. Vegeta can sense Ki and has access to flight, basic Ki blast that he can fire out at will, and higher level attacks such as the Big Bang attack, a spear of Ki which causes an explosion. He also has the Gallic gun, a massive beam of purple energy. This exists alongside the Final Flash, a beam of energy that goes even beyond that. The Destructo Disc is a technique that Vegeta stole from Krillin that is a sharp disc of Ki that cuts through things. He also has Dirty Fireworks, which is interesting because he used it twice despite how good of a technique it theoretically should be. He points, he travels from his finger to his opponent, and boom. It's weird though, he never uses it after Qui. He then has the Gamma Burst Flash, the Ultimate Blast, and the ultimate variation of the Final Flash in the manga, which acts as an even larger Final Flash. Then he has the Final Explosion, which used to kill him in a large area of effect attack, but now only drains him of all of his energy. Finally, he has Force Spirit Fission, which allows him to hit an opponent with either Ki Blast or his fist and steal their energy away from them to repurpose it later. Overall, a super solid moveset based mostly around offense. Now, there is instant transmission, but by Vegeta's own admission, it was a one-off thing that he's unlikely to ever master or use again, so there's that. I don't think it's viable in a versus battle scenario. For Zeldris, he is a demon, quite literally. This means he can use the power of darkness for multiple things. He can form wings to fly with it, he can heal himself with the darkness down to a cellular level but not a molecular one, make weapons and form shields with physical manifestations of darkness, and he can also sense magic. He's also a telepath, being able to broadcast his thoughts outward across very large distances. He can also rip out the soul of a person, whether it be through touch or from range. Then he has Piety, his commandment, where someone will fall under his control if they turn their back on him. For his unique abilities, he has the Hellblaze, the eternal dark flame of the Demon Clan that can negate an immortal's regeneration. He can fire it out from his palm, or he can coat himself or his weapon in it. His comes with extra perks such as Curse Infliction, which allows him to inflict comas on people, which lock people away in dark abysses of their minds. He then has the Asale, where he drops a massive dark lightning bolt on his opponent from a distance through a portal. He then has the Demon King's power, which allows him to ignore all magic used against him, the ability negating all magical techniques and their hypothetical damage. He then has Ominous Nebula, where he swirls darkness around him at such a concentrated speed that it creates a vacuum, drawing in all living opponents and instinctively attacks and slices apart all that come in contact with it, then blowing them away, only to draw them back in. Then he's also able to seal beings away with his darkness, and he's able to seal people's magic and or, in this case, Ki off through touching them. He just hits you and then you're not allowed to use your magic or Ki anymore. Now, to the battle itself. What's the main issue for each fighter? For Vegeta, his main issue is that he can only rely on physical attacks. In an everything equalized setting, due to Zeldris' access to the Demon King's power, none of his energy attacks will work in his favor. Or, at all. So a lot of Vegeta's main functions are prevented by Zeldris' one ability. Then he has to worry about the other main problem, which would be Omnis Nebula, which at the same time blocks Vegeta out yet constantly pulls him in, consistently dealing damage. For Zeldris, he has his one main issue with Vegeta, which would be getting hit. Possibly. I know this sounds dumb, like, oh yeah, it's a versus battle, of course you don't want to get hit. However, in this case, due to Vegeta having Force Spirit Vision and Vegeta's likely ability to sense both Piety and the Demon King's power residing in Zeldris as they're not his own native magics, which is shown by Vegeta being able to sense the differences between people's types of ki with Cell, and how he and all the other Z fighters are able to sense that Cell is like multiple people at once despite being only one ki signature. I think it's very likely Vegeta could actually sense all the things inside Zeldris. However, it raises a question if Force Spirit Vision will even work, because does the Demon King's power negate a technique like Force Spirit Vision, since it's technically a spirit or ki or magic, whatever you want to call it, based attack? We have seen the full variation of it, referring to the Demon King's power, aka the ruler, just completely nullify all magic parts of a physical attack. It'll just completely ignore the magical part of an attack but leave the effects of the physical part of the attack. It could work that way, considering it's literally just the exact same power, except unlike the Demon King, Zeldris gets no benefit from the attacks he negs. He just negates the attacks that come at him. So it may not actually work. However, maybe Force Spirit Vision would work. I'm leaning towards it not working, since we know that it would likely just negate the Spirit Vision part of the Spirit Vision, because it would literally just be Zeldris getting hit in the face, but it would just hit Zeldris in the face rather than actually taking away anything. And that's really it. I mean, like, you could argue against that, but it is still a spirit control technique. It still is based on spirit and ki and all that stuff, and that stuff simply doesn't work on Zeldris at all. He says it himself. So, I mean, if you want to give it to Vegeta, you can, I guess. It makes the fight more interesting, but I just don't think it's too likely. However, to talk about the battle itself, let's go with the idea that it won't work based on what the series has told us in terms of how the Demon King's power works. I don't think Vegeta really has a chance of winning this at all if Zeldris activates Omnis Nebula. While if Zeldris holds back for some reason, despite them both being at full power, and Vegeta starts running the ones with Zeldris, like gets up in his face and they actually start fighting, since none of Vegeta's like special techniques work, not Force Spirit Vision, not the Final Flash, not any of his energy attacks, I think there's going to be a lot of Zeldris just like bullying Vegeta. Like, not in the sense that Vegeta's a bad fighter, it's just that Zeldris has access to all his abilities, including lighting Vegeta on fire with a flame that just can burn through anything it wants whenever it wants. Not just Zeldris just standing there and being like, you know what, I want your soul, B, let me touch you real quick, and bada bing, bada boom, and he's eating Vegeta's soul. I mean, Zeldris could literally just stand there and be like, hey, Vegeta, I don't like you can fly or do any of that stuff like that. I'll just take that away real quick, and then Vegeta can't do any of that anymore. That's the thing. I feel like up close, Vegeta just still has no answers. Like, he can try to punch Zeldris to death all he wants, but Zeldris isn't dying from that. You're going to have to hit Zeldris really, really hard, and an equal stats fight is going to require multiple hits. And really, I'm acting on the assumption that Zeldris doesn't instantly just activate Omnis Nebula to get the fight over with, which he's very likely to do. They're both at full power. Zeldris has no reason not to, and it's an auto win at that point. The fight, honestly, isn't that cool once Vegeta is ranged out by Omnis Nebula, because he just keeps getting knocked back and pulled back until he dies, knocked back, pulled back until he dies. And if he ever makes the mistake of turning his back on Zeldris trying to escape or get some ground or move away, then he's infected by Piety and the fight's done. I can't think of a way for Vegeta to win unless you want him to blow up the planet. But if Vegeta blows up the planet, he dies too. So I think Vegeta loses that fight. If y'all can think of a way for Vegeta to win that fight, if Force Spirit Vision is negged like everything else of Vegeta's is negged, I mean, I want to hear it. And if it's punching Zeldris to death, I can respect that. I can definitely respect that. I don't think it's going to work, but I can definitely respect that. If Force Spirit Vision does work, I think the fight gets more interesting, but once again, I have to just like pretend that Zeldris won't activate Omnis Nebula. Like, actively hope he just doesn't do it. Because if he does, then Vegeta's still ranged out and dying. However, if Vegeta gets in close and he senses both the Demon King's power and Piety within Zeldris and he sucker punches it out of him, then it's a more interesting fight. Then Vegeta can start using his attacks, but then I think Zeldris activates Omnis Nebula, and Omnis Nebula reflects everything Vegeta does until he gets sucked in and dies. And it just happens again. Like, it's an endless cycle of, uh-oh, I activated Omnis Nebula, good night Vegeta, and then Vegeta dies. and that's on the assumption that Vegeta can land the hit or land enough hits on Zeldris to fully knock out the Demon King's power or knock out Piety, if he even knows which one to knock out first, because he can sense the magic in this equal stats format, but he can't. I don't think he'll know which one. So I do believe with Force Spirit Fission working against the likelihood that it should work, I do believe Vegeta has a higher chance. I think the fight goes from a 10 out of 10 in Zeldris' favor to like a 8 out of 10 in Zeldris' favor, and Vegeta winning 2 times, because if he knocks out the Demon King's power somehow, because Zeldris doesn't activate Omnis Nebula off rip, then I think Zeldris could get punched out till he's just too weak to fight, and then Vegeta finishes him off because he can't be immune to magic anymore. However, I think that's very unlikely. I think with both of them at full power, Omnis Nebula instantly activates in most scenarios, but I still give Vegeta those 2 wins. He could definitely pull that out on them. Now, unequalized. No, I mean unequalized resources. I already told you what I think unequalized. If Vegeta and Zeldris go into a fight, unequalized Zeldris is getting blinked away. And I'm not even kidding. Multiversal Vegeta versus Star Level Zeldris, it's not happening. However, unequalized resources, I think it's still a interesting fight, though I think Ominous Nebula is still a good GG for Vegeta, because he gets sliced to ribbons. And while the Demon King's power won't negate everything Vegeta does anymore, and he could, if Vegeta opens up with a raw final flash and is just like, forget it, boom, and just tries to erase Zeldris from existence, I mean, Zeldris could try to activate Omnis Nebula, but he may get popped in the mouth hard enough that it could take him out of the battle for a bit. However, I think he could live it, I think he could tank it, and I think he could pull up a shield just in time. However, it's a 50-50 shot there. That is a fight of 50-50s. Like, actually, I think it's a 50-50, because if Vegeta goes in for that first hit and just tries to vaporize Zeldris as quickly as possible, which Vegeta isn't necessarily known for, he does like to torture his opponents, so I doubt it's going to happen, but it's there. And if Zeldris activates Omnis Nebula, which he's likely to do, then I think Vegeta loses, because Omnis Nebula reflects things. So there's that. This is a much simpler battle, like than you would think it would be, mainly because of the Demon King's power just negating most of, if not literally all of Vegeta's moveset except for his punches and kicks. So there's that. I don't know. It was a fun battle to think about, like in concept, you know, because of their character backstories. However, once you start thinking on like the fight, like where it would go, it don't look too good for my boy Vegeta. But if you have a different opinion, drop it down in the comment section down below. I want to hear it, just because I don't know, I just think there isn't really much Vegeta can do in most normal circumstances. To like give Vegeta a chance to win, I have to make a lot of assumptions for the poor boy, which is not necessarily a good thing, but hey, I'll do it regardless because I really like Vegeta. However, enough of my random equal stats battles. 2 weeks from now, you're getting it. Gallon versus My Hero Academia. Who wins? You'll find out in about 2 weeks. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with a Pencil, writing off.